Hey, you guys, it's Linda West with Living Live, and I am super duper excited to introduce to you my dear friend, Brian Smith. Now, Brian is the founder of UGG Boots Australia, and today we're going to talk about some really, really great topics. First of all, we're going to talk about fear. We're going to talk about his book, The Birth, I didn't mean cover your face, Brian.
That's all right.
The Birth of a Brand, and then we're also going to talk about him speaking, because, you know, when you have a business, one of the best ways to get yourself out there is to get in front of audiences, right, Brian?
Sure.
So there's fears related to writing a book. There's fears related to speaking. There's fears related to starting a business. There's fears related to scaling a business.
Everything, yeah.
Yeah, fear like encompasses our lives, it seems. Yeah.
And not just in business, just in personal life.
Yeah. And so we're going to talk about some of his personal fears as well. So if you are an entrepreneur, if you're interested in writing a book, if you're interested in speaking, if you are a human being, go ahead and share this video out, because we really want to introduce Brian to people, because, you know, growing a business into, I think you just said, like last year, UGG brought in
$1.8 billion.
$1.8 billion in just 1 year. So if you want to listen in about like how you can.
But I eventually realized, oh my God, there are no sheepskin boots in America. And everybody in Australia seemed to own a pair. So, so I just bought some samples and started going around trying to sell them in California. And when I had this first aha idea of you know, I was thinking I was going to be an instant millionaire, but it turned out
that didn't happen, did it?
It turned out the first year's sales was 28 pairs of boots.
28 pairs.
Yeah, it was so disappointing.
Dismal.
But that formed the basis of my, you know, when I wrote the book about, you know, building the UGG brand. It was the theme was that you can't give birth to adults, you know.
I love that, by the way. That is so awesome.
Every business is conceived, and then the first action is taken, and that, you know, for me was buying 6 pairs of samples, and then every business or, you know, service just goes into this horrible infancy, and it lies there and it lies there, and there's no amount of extra feeding or jiggling the table. The infant can't get up and go to college. It has to be an infant. And unfortunately, that's when most entrepreneurs starting out give up, because they think, oh, my God, nothing's happening. It's not working. And they walk away from it. But if you persevere and you keep feeding it and changing the diapers, you know, eventually it'll start.
There's some dirty diapers along the way.
Toddling, you know, and that's when, you know, the first people are buying the product and people are writing articles about it. And then that'll go quickly into the youth, which is a fantastic period where everything's working, and, you know, you can run a $20 million business in that youth. But if it's a really, really great business, it's going to hit the teenage years, and you're going to want to be in every trade show, every retail store in the country, and it's super dangerous. And I almost lost control of UGG many times.
Well, how is it dangerous? Like, why don't you explain that?
Because you want to be bigger than you are, and you want to. So you spend on big trade shows, and you want to get in big, you know, retail corporations, and you can't afford the production to satisfy the demand. You know, it goes, you go upside down so fast. It's really dangerous. And then eventually it'll mature though and become a good business. But that's the theme that I wrote about in the book, and it really helps entrepreneurs understand where they are in the process, and. You know, oh my God, I've been so frustrated. I'm not there, but now I realize this is the stage I'm in, and I just got to be happy and comfortable being where I'm at, and just try and keep getting better and better every day. And before you know it, you look back and go, oh my God, I've already, you know, matured.
Now that goes to your saying about a tadpole.
Yeah.
What's your saying about a tadpole?
This is so most profound piece of philosophy.
We should save it for the end then.
Okay, then let's do that.
Teaser. You got to stick around to hear his saying about a tadpole, because it's very, very important. It is. It's very, very profound piece of information. So let's not forget. Okay. Like you got to remind me.
Okay, I'll remember.
Okay. So remember, if you're listening right now and you'd like to share this out, just go and click that share button, share it out onto your timeline. This is going to be some really great nuggets that you're going to get here. Break out your notepad. Brian is full of amazing information. He's a professional motivational speaker. He gets out and he speaks to groups. He speaks at corporations, you know, helping people figure out, you know, birthing their brand and just figuring out like how to keep going.
Yeah.
Because that's the thing is, Brian, when you started, you sold, you know, 28 brands. What made you decide to keep going?
28 pairs.
I mean, pairs. I said brands.
Yeah, it's just, I just knew how popular they were in Australia, and I just had to try and figure out what am I not getting about the American market.
And you figured it out.
It was just pivoting and figuring out, day by day, how to try and make something work. And that's what every business has to do.
Now you started out pedaling out of your car.
The van, I had a van. Every time I went surfing at Malibu, I'd open up the back of the van, and I had a full range of products inside the van. And that was the initial start, but it took several years before it really became, like, remember everybody used to say it's a fad or, really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Well, 3 or 4 years later, I started sponsoring these young surfers. And then when I advertised in the magazine, suddenly that got the credibility out. And it was like every kid in high school was telling their mom, I need a pair of UGG boots. All the cool kids at school have got UGG boots, and I want some for Christmas. And that was when the thing started to really get out of control. Yeah, that was the first. But it took nearly 5 years of, and that was 4 years of summer jobs, trying to figure out, what to do the next season.
It's really crazy if you think about it, because you said, a lot of times people, they'll get started, things aren't happening, so they give up.
Yep.
Now you didn't, and there was something there was something in you that said, I got to keep going. First of all, along this process, the first 4 to 5 years, did you have any fears? And if so, how did you face them and break through them?
Totally. We all have fears, Fear is like, it's such an inhibitor to thinking clearly, because you start to focus in on what's not happening. And
that's a good one, by the way. Inhibitant to thinking clearly.
It's the greatest inhibitor. And the minute you start getting fearful about something, you lock down into this mode of defense instead of being open to what the universe can bring you. And I know that everybody says that, but the universe really has all the answers. Everything you could possibly want already exists.
Mm-hmm.
But unless you're on the path, you'll never find it. Right, the things won't come into your being.
Okay.
So back to the fear, though. And this is in my book. I've got all these little tidbits in my book about fear. And one of the greatest tricks I used to learn. This is going forward to where the business is. Doing several million in business, but there were problems coming up where I didn't know if I was going to get product in time, or I didn't know if I had big orders that were going to close, and I would lie in bed at night, at 1 or 2 in the morning, and these thoughts would be going through my head in a loop, and I couldn't get rid of them, and I eventually figured that there's 2 elements of truth, right? One is love, and the opposite is fear.
Yeah.
Right? They're the 2. Everything else falls in the middle of it's a combination of those 2 things. And so I got into the practice at night of just lying there, and I'd be so stressed out, and I would just say, I choose love. 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 And this would go on for 2 or 3 minutes. And before I knew it, my physiology would have changed, and my body would be relaxed. I'd be asleep. And I've had people write to me because they read that in my book. I've had them write to me and tell me how effective that is. That
actually, for some reason, makes me very emotional. Just
really?
Hearing you say that. Yeah, I get like tears welling up in my eyes thinking about it, because what I usually say is, I'm sleepy. I'm sleepy. I'm sleepy.
Right.
I'm changing it to I choose love. That is so powerful.
It is profound, and it works. It's
I choose
amazing.
Love.
And the other thing I did to help was I always have a pen and a notepad next to my bed, and if it keeps going in that loop, I just write it down, and the loop stops.
You told me that the other day when I started doing it, and it really helps, because like you said, like sometimes you'll write over what you wrote, but it doesn't matter. It's just like you need to get it out of your head.
In the morning, you can't hardly decipher some of it, but the thing is, it's gone, and you sleep. So but fear is, and there are other types of fear. There's the fear of the unknown. That's a big one. People will just stop dead in whatever they're trying to follow, because they don't know what's coming, and they're afraid to take a step because of the unknown. And it's a huge fear. But again, that's coming back and inhibiting your ability to think clearly about something.
I choose love.
Yeah, but in this instance, it's a conscious daily awake thing, and you just have to make the best choice you possibly can at the time, and then that totally throws fear out the window because you just made the action. And if it doesn't work, big deal, deal with it. It's probably not going to kill you. It may set you back, but every disappointment, every setback I've ever had has led to something better, because you figure out a way to get around it, and it becomes better. And I always look back and go, oh my God, thank God that blew up, because now look where I'm at. It's so much better than where I would have been had I followed that same path.
Oh, I love that. That's really awesome, because fear, we can let it stop us, we can let it fuel us, right? Because we have a way where we can tap in and say, I'm scared, but I'm going to do it anyway. I'm just going to jump in.
And it has to be a conscious, thought out process. You don't just make a decision for the hell of making a decision.
Well, sometimes I do.
Yeah.
It's not the smartest way, maybe.
In fact, one of my mentors told me, what was his quote? If you can't act effectively, don't act.
Right? And that's a writer downer.
It is. I've lived my life with, if you can't act effectively, don't act. And that means you don't have to be pressed into a decision, right?
Right.
If you don't know, just don't do anything. But that'll help you think it through, and then you can overcome the fear that way. So it's, these are all things that every single entrepreneur is going to go through.
For sure.
And even if you're not an entrepreneur, these things are going to happen in your personal life anyway. So these quotes are really valuable for your personal life.
Yeah. Now I'm speaking with Brian Smith, the founder of UGG Boots Australia. Welcome you guys to the show. I see we do have some live viewers. Let's go ahead and say hey to them, Brian. You see Liz Stone. Liz Stone was my life coach.
Hey, Liz, how you doing?
Did you know she was my life coach?
No, I had no idea.
Yeah, she's the one who got me started on this whole journey, helping me discover who I am.
It's
really incredible. Thank you so much. There's Liz, and then we have Jessica Goubert is there. Hello, Liz and Jessica. The energy and belief to keep going is amazing. And we have Nicole Diaz. He didn't invent UGG Boots. Do you want to talk about that, Brian? Because she says he invented UGG Boots, the question mark. So why don't you go and explain exactly what that is?
Sheepskin boots were worn by everybody in Australia when I first started. So I did not invent them, but they were pretty crappy at the time. So I did do a huge job in, making them more acceptable to the, U.S. consumer market. And now, since I sold the company, the new company has just done incredible things. If you go on the website of UGG, there's shoes there that aren't even sheepskin. They're just fantastic products. So he brought UGG
to
I simply
the US.
imported what was already existing down there.
Yeah. So it's called UGG Australia.
Yeah.
Okay, and then Liz says, love is a vibration, as is fear. It can add and does literally change things with its vibration.
Yeah.
And then we have Emma tuning in. Hello from Las Vegas, 115 degrees.
Wow.
But she loves her Uggs hot or cold. Awesome. I love it. So you guys go ahead and share this out on your timeline, and invite other people to join us either live or to watch the replay. If you have any questions, go ahead and put them in the comments below, and either Brian will answer them while we're live now, or we'll answer them at a later time, because he'll see the messages coming up there. And now, Brian, I wanted to talk about being a speaker. So
Sure.
You speak to audiences, and I know you love to speak to entrepreneurs, love to help them out. You want to talk about that really quick?
Yeah. My favorite audience that doesn't really pay anything is college entrepreneurial schools, because the students are just so open and so eager to get into businesses that they're like sponges, and I've had some fantastic experiences there. But mostly it's with entrepreneurial groups, like business conferences. Where people are already in business. Lots of people in the social media space now who are trying to work out how to make money on Facebook or Amazon and things like that. Love speaking to them, because they're all going through the same questions and fears that everybody does. And also I love speaking to established corporate groups. There are lots of them, like EO and YPO and Vistage and all of those. Those are really good groups because there are people who have been in business. They've been successful, but they're having scaling issues, and that brings fear and questions about how good their business is. And I love speaking with those people as well. Let me just.
Hey, maybe that's why I'm calling him for a speaking engagement right now.
I wish.
Well, let's see, just before we go on further on that. So if you know anybody who you just mentioned, conferences, speaking at the colleges or, speaking at corporations, go ahead and type the word speaker below, and then I'll connect you with Brian so we can, make something happen there,
Fantastic.
Get him out there, because, sharing the message, that's the one thing about speaking is you have an opportunity to get in front of a lot of people that you can change their trajectory, help them from making a lot of mistakes potentially. And what's your favorite part of speaking?
I mentioned the phases. I've had people come up to me, and one in particular, this girl handed me a note. She said, "I got to go," but and I was doing photographs and everything after the talk. And that night, I got back to the hotel room and I found this piece of paper, and she goes, "Hey, Brian, I was going to give up my business this week, but now I understand I'm in the infancy. Thank you so much. I'm really inspired to keep going." And I mean, that touched me more than making a $20,000 sale of UGG boots, right?
Right.
That was so precious. And that happened so many times to me. Every time I come off stage, I know the effect that I've had on people because they did just straight out tell me. And then the letters I get from people who read the book going, "Oh, my God, thank you. You've really helped me with my business." Those are the things that are so precious, and that's what keeps me going. I'm old enough now where I can sort of be a bit of
you're still an expert. Spring chicken.
In those terms, I feel like I am, but I have the wisdom of an older person, and that's really what I love to share. I think that's the purpose of life eventually, is to sort of help give back what you've got.
I truly agree with that too, because we learn lessons and we can keep them to ourselves or we can share them. It's really a choice, and I prefer sharing, and I think it's the best way to help people grow and avoid some bumps and bruises along the way.
Cool.
So, Brian, what would you say is, like, as far as your personal life, what is maybe like the scariest thing you've ever done?
Wow, I've never been asked that before.
Oh, yay! You hit a golden one.
What's the scariest thing I've ever done? Wow. Probably making the decision to quit Australia and come to America looking for a business. I had no idea what I was getting into. And
that's a big leap.
I was afraid, but hopeful and anticipatory. I was thinking that I'm going to find the next big thing to bring back to Australia. So that was a very big life-changing thing. But looking back now, because I made the step, you can never be wrong. You can make a decision that maybe doesn't work out for you, but it's not wrong because you learn that that's not where I should be, and you figure out a way to get around it. So me coming here to find a business to take back to Australia was wrong, but it led me to realizing, wait a minute, there's something in Australia that's not in America, and that was right. So even by making a wrong choice, you end up in the right place. So the principle here is just don't be afraid of taking the risks and getting out of your comfort zone. Because
it's not the end of the world.
No, you're not going to die. I mean, in fact, today you can't die. You can end up lying in a gutter in a street. Someone's going to pick you up and take you to hospital. You can't die from your choices, but there are ramifications for everything that you do. And I'll sort of finish up with this sort of one piece of philosophy. We've all heard about, the universe conspires to work with you.
Yes.
Right? Well, here's what that means to me. When's the last time you saw an advertisement for a refrigerator? Probably don't.
Probably never.
Never, right?
Okay.
But if you needed a refrigerator next weekend, you would start seeing evidence of refrigerators everywhere. That you'd be in Starbucks and the classified ads would be out and there'd be refrigerator advertisements.
Right.
You'd be driving along the road and you'd see an appliance store and it's full of refrigerators. You'd be online and there'll be refrigerators, right? Because once you start out on a path and start focusing on something, the universe brings all of the other evidence that's related to that, which has always been there. You just never saw it.
Right.
It's always been there. But now you start to focus on things that are related to where it is you want to go. And that's where the universe conspires to work with you, because the universe is perfect and everything you could possibly want already exists.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're not out looking, it'll never come. You'll never realize how to get there. And UGG's a perfect example. I knew nothing about shoe retailing. I knew nothing about importing and customs. I knew nothing about manufacturing. I knew nothing about sales and marketing.
Mm-hmm.
But when I hit on that idea and I said, I'm going to bring UGG boots to America, I found the customs broker. I found out a magazine to start advertising and selling. I found out how to go on the road and talk to retailers and basically train myself to be a salesman. I hated sales at the time. But, by starting, all of these things fell in place. And that's just life. And it doesn't have to be in business. It can be something in your personal life that you want, that when you focus on it, and that's why Match.com works so well for everybody, because they start to focus on, okay, now I need somebody.
As long as they're being honest and truthful with themselves,
whatever,
right?
Yeah,
right?
But at least the focus brings in thousands of, so it happens in every sort of industry and every sort of walk of life. So get out and start. That's probably the most important advice I can give to anybody.
Get out and start. Yeah. And then eventually you will get more clear and more clear. And then you'll be able to focus more on the clarity.
Yeah.
And that's when you're going to attract all these things.
Exactly. And that, to sort of round it up, are we ready?
Yes.
To finish
okay, we're ready.
Here? That's where my tadpole theory comes in, right?
Segue.
Because the quickest way for a tadpole to become a frog is to live every day happily as a tadpole. Right? That might sound really trite, but that is the most profound piece of wisdom. In other words, live every day doing the best you can every single day. And one day in the future, you'll look back and go, oh, my God, I'm a frog. Right? And it can't fail. It always happens.
I love that. So we're going to end with that, because if we go any further, I might ruin the whole thing. So, Brian, thanks so much for being here. And again, go to briansmithspeaker.com. And if you would like to have him speak, for your event or at a corporation or in colleges, go ahead and type speaker below. And then also go check out his book, Birth of a Brand. Oh, we got it right here.
Yeah, here it is.
Yeah, Birth of a Brand.
And I'm just reading your comment, Liz Stone.
Yes.
What do I want the world to know is live every day happily as a tadpole.
There you go. With that, we're out. Have a great day, everybody, and we'll see you really soon. Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye.